welcome to Suds and Country Video. Hi, I'm Herb Sudson. On this show, I have a special guest, Mr. Eddie Rabbitt. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Herb. How you doing?
Good. Eddie Rabbitt, Jersey Boy. It happens to be the name of your latest album.
That's right.
Why that name?
I don't know. I wrote a song one night while my kids were playing underfoot on the piano. A song I never planned to record, actually. I was just noodling around on the piano, just singing about the George Washington Bridge and the Claremont Diner and the Hurricane Bar and all these places, and I was just having fun with it, just singing, "Whoa, I'm a Jersey boy." Anyway, I finished the song, put it away, and a month or two later, Richard Landis, my producer, and I were sitting together going through material for the latest album, which is the one we have out now. And I said, take a listen to this. I said, this little funny little thing I wrote one night, you know, sitting around the piano. We won't record this. I said, but take a listen. I said, it's a pretty cute little tune. Because only the people in New Jersey would relate to all those places. That's why I figured you don't want to cut in an album because you're dealing with 50 states there, maybe international, you know, overseas and all. It was just a personal little song. And Richard heard it, and he really liked it. He said, you ought to cut that. That's a great little song, you know. It's like a little autobiography. And I said, I don't know. He said, no, let's cut it. He said, if it doesn't come off in the studio, we'll throw it out and cut something else. But so I said, okay. And I cut it, and I began to kind of fall in love with my little song, you know. And it came out real nice.
That's an autobiographical type of a song?
It's totally autobiographical. That's why I didn't feel, because I've never written an autobiographical song before that was word for word totally autobiographical. I mean, all the songs that I think any songwriter writes are somewhat autobiographical in the sense that he's drawing on some experience or something he's either seen on TV or if he's lived in real life or an actual situation that he's totally lived. But this is the total story about it. My mom and dad coming from Ireland in 1924 and buying a house which I thought was a very big front porch, you know, which I went back a few years later after I left East Orange, went to Nashville. I came back 10 years later, and it was a very small porch. But, but when you're a little kid, you know, it's a big house with a big front porch.
Describe the music on the album, the whole album. What can we expect?
Another reason, well, I was going to say, the reason I called it Jersey Boy was not just because of that song alone. All the material in the album is kind of a slice of what I do in total. I don't do totally country, you know, one kind of country. All of it's country to me, but a lot of people like to call it pop and country rock or something else. But it's a little bit of everything I've always done. And I thought if there was ever one album that had a little taste of everything that Rabbitt does, you know, this album has it in there. And I said maybe it's time to put this album together. Starts off with a bluegrass song and then a country song and then a truck driving thing, and then it gets a little more progressive and it gets into what I call Louisiana mud swamp music.
What is that?
The Louisiana mud swamp.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's to feel like a stranger with the dobro, and it's just to get down dirty kind of, you know, funky beat kind of a thing. And it ends up with a kind of what someone called a Tex-Mex street kind of song, you know. But it's everything I think that I've ever done over the years, which is all country to me. Because when we got to thinking about it, I just said, you know, let's just call this thing Jersey Boy, because I'm a guy who sat in East Orange, New Jersey, listening to a radio, sitting on the edge of the bed with my guitar, listening to country music coming out of that radio and loving it, and learning it and remembering it, you know, and playing it on the edge of my bed there, and who dreamed about being a country star, you know. And I later took a Greyhound bus to Nashville, you know, with $1,000 in my pocket, and started knocking on doors, and slowly little pieces of the dream started coming true. And I feel very fortunate that coming from where I come from, having the dream that I had, which would be quite unusual for anyone would think for a guy living in East Orange, you know, close to Newark, dreaming about being a country star. I go, yeah, right, kid, you know.
Straight from the city.
But it worked, you know, and I have to thank my mom and dad a lot for that. My dad played the Irish fiddle and the accordion all the time I was growing up. He would play dances and Irish, you know, parties and things like that, and he was very good. So I feel like a lot of that country music got into me through my dad's playing and my mom's singing of the Irish songs. because, not to belabor this or to go on talking forever here, but there was a show on PBS called The Story of English, and they were, somehow or another, they got into how country music got into the South of America. And it says that the Scots-Irish, basically, with a little English and German mixed in, came across, immigrated to this country, and settled in the Appalachians and moved on down, bringing their Irish music, their English, their Scotch, you know, all that kind of folk music that all those Virginia reels and all those hornpipes and things you hear now being played by those people is very familiar to the old world. It's folk music.
They're bringing it back?
Especially the Anglo-Saxon
They're bringing that back now?
No, they're not bringing it back. I'm just saying that that's how country music evolved. I think it evolved. In fact, I said on the show that it actually evolved out of the Scots-Irish bringing it over to this country, and somehow it got diversified, you know, with black gospel music, white gospel music, with New Orleans R&B, you know, and it came out as country music. And you can hear it in the songs today, in a lot of the fiddle tunes, like I say, things like the Virginia reel and these hornpipes and reels, whatever. They're very reminiscent to a lot of tunes my father played. Like you can hear smidgens of things that haven't been lost completely in 100 years or two. What
happened to country music in the last 10 years with the rhythm and blues and with all the different sounds that came into it, like you just talked about? Well, years ago, you didn't have that. It wasn't so prevalent in the sound of country. Today, country is blues, it's soul, it's like going through a blender, didn't it?
It's a menu of different things. Yeah, I like what's happened to country music, because I think the country music that you're talking about from 20, 25, 30 years ago, the early Ray Price stuff, early Buck Owens, George Jones, Hank Thompson, Hawkshaw Hawkins, Cowboy Copas, you know, all these, Goldie Hill, Norma Jean, you know, all these people. I think that's when country music really was being born out of the South and coming out of the farmlands, you know, and the cotton fields back home. I think what's happened now, I think because there's so much TV and so much cable and so much communication and cross-communication, so many radio stations out there, I think people like me began to hear country music and fall in love with it, who weren't picking cotton, or who weren't plowing field, or who weren't living in the country. We were living in the city. And I think what's happened now is country music has just become what it has to become, because the country now is not just the country anymore, it's the city. Atlanta is a big city, Nashville is a big city, Memphis is a big city, Knoxville, you know, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, these are all big cities now, you know, and some of the people living in those cities aren't really country anymore. They're real city people who live in the South. And they still like and love country music, you know, from their grandparents and their parents. But I think the kids that are coming out of it, who are writing the new country music, are citifying it a little bit, because they really never did pick cotton, and you know, they've grown up in the city. So it's gone through, and the kids nowadays hear so many different kinds of music, the R&B, you know, rock and roll, you know, rap and this and that and the other thing, that it all kind of gets mixed up and comes out as some kind of, you know, different kind of country, you know, different kinds of country.
Jersey Boy, your 15th album.
Is it?
That's what I read. 2 videos off the album.
Honest with you, I'm not sure.
Every once in a while they throw out
a best of album and they mix me up. I'm sorry.
Two videos came off this album. True?
Right. No, not this album.
Oh, where'd Wanderer come from?
The Wanderer was from the album before this, which was called I Want to Dance With You.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was under the impression that both of them came off this album. Where'd you get where'd you shoot these videos? The Wanderer and...
The Wanderer was shot at an old railroad station in Nashville called Union Station, which is a real big old railroad. They used to be quite popular back in the 30s and 40s, famous. It went into disrepair and the railroad stopped, you know, and all that kind of thing, you know, as far as passengers and things. Anyway, they made the front of Union Station a big, fancy, modern hotel now, you know, keeping a lot of the old, you know, architecture and stuff. The back of it is still 25 years of pigeon dew and old falling down rafters. I mean, gigantic, you know, complex back there. Probably 10 acres, you know, where all the trains and the railroads, you know, came in to each other. But it's kind of I'll tell you a quick funny story is talking about the pigeon do. I went down there, we started at 6 in the morning on that Wanderer video, and some of the crew were already there. And I went in there, and it was a very dusty place, and the ground felt weird, you know, where all the trains were. Very soft and mushy and, you know, just strange. Very mulchy. Anyway, all these guys were wearing medical masks down there, you know, and I'm, what the deal here is, you know. And I found out later that that all this soft stuff I was stepping on was 25 years of pigeon droppings that had collected and collected and collected, and was probably a foot or two thick, okay? And it was everywhere. I mean, it was the ground now, you know. And my only problem was that a year or two ago, a doctor talked about not having our children go out in the backyard when you see too many blackbirds or whatever out there, because there's a disease called histoplasmosis that you can get in your lungs, and it can scar your lungs and be real bad for you. And so I asked my road manager, I said, check into this. I said, check into this. Call my doctor and ask him if 25 years of this stuff here, I'm going to be dancing around this all day and making dust and breathing in, you know, big time, has any effect on me. So he came back a little while later and said, oh, you got nothing to worry about. He said, the effects don't show up for 5 or 6 years. So I said, so I know he actually checked and said it was okay, yeah.
You've had 25 #1 hits, all self-written?
Just about, 99% of them. I didn't write Every Which Way But Loose. I didn't write You Don't Love Me Anymore.
8 top 40 pop hits?
That sounds right.
Sounds about right. A pair of gold LPs?
Yeah.
Triple platinum album? Awards. How about the awards? Talk to me about some awards.
Awards? You know, I don't know about awards. I must say that's one place where I'm kind of weak. I don't keep up with awards. We're on the road so much, you know.
I was going to list them, and then I figured I'll just let you take it.
Well, I don't know. We've gotten you know, a lot of nice awards. One that I'm really proud of is the Robert J. Burton Award from BMI, which we got for a song called Suspicions, which was the most performed song of 1981 or 2, and I think that's of all the country songs that were played on the radio, that one received the most play, and I thought that was an important award and a nice award to get. There's some other for Best New Artist, Best Male, this and that, and I really don't remember what they are because it's awful nice, but I just don't keep up with the awards.
All right.
The award that actually we got recently, which I thought was real nice, was for the video, the new video, not the new one, but the latest one, On Second Thought. We've got from the Nashville Federation of Advertisers, they gave us what's called the Diamond Addy Award. It's a very important award, and it's usually given to a commercial. It's the first time in 25 years they've ever given the award to a music video. So it was awful nice to receive that, because
Being you mentioned On Second Thought, hey, I heard you won the New York Music Critics Award last year for Best Video?
I think it was Best of Country Artist.
Okay. Close.
I'm not sure. It came as a surprise to me, to be honest with you, because I wasn't familiar with that particular award thing. I guess I've been out of New York, you know, a little too long. But I was very proud of that. That was a nice surprise. And they're having it again this year. And I don't know.
The winner is?
I don't know. It'd be nice. It'd be nice, you know. Well, Jersey boy comes home, picks up award. I want to thank the people involved with that award show very much for that. Thank you.
Deep down, how close do you think you are to winning?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know how they do the thing.
Let's hope for the winner here.
It's music critics, and you know how those guys are.
I hope I'm sitting next to a winner here today. All right.
They were pretty good to me.
When you first came to Nashville, who did you write music for? You were a songwriter when you came to town.
Well, you know, I went to Nashville a little innocently, you know, thinking that I might get discovered right away singing, you know, and writing my own songs. But I realized that singers are a dime a dozen in Nashville. You know, they're all over the place.
Told that.
Hit songs aren't, though, and I realized, see, I had already been writing, so I realized that I'd have to concentrate more on the writing when I got to town than trying to become an artist right away. The way to do it, I realized, was to write hit songs for other people, get a name, and
Such as who?
Well, I wrote Ronnie Millsap's first #1 record, Pure Love.
Right.
I wrote Elvis Presley's 50th gold record, which I'm real proud of, Kentucky Rain.
That's right.
I've written songs for Willie Nelson, like Who Put All My Exes in Texas, songs for Roy Clark and Jan Howard, Harlan Howard's wife. I even wrote one. Even snuck one in there, and I've had a lot of songs recorded by a lot of people.
When you sang with our friend Sparky, you wrote some of those songs that you sang in those early days?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if some of those songs that were recorded in Nashville after that were some of the songs that probably not.
You sang all other songs.
Songs that I had written, you know, but probably weren't as good as the ones I wrote when I got to Nashville and kicked around a little bit and got the idea a little better.
Okay.
You know.
You've had two gold singles, "I Love a Rainy Night" and "Driving My Life Away," #5 and #1 respectively. They were called crossover accidents. Why were they referred to as crossover accidents? I read that in a bio or some article that I read about you. You had phrased that once.
Crossover accidents. Well,
yeah, that was
did I say that?
That was the term I read in one of the.
Okay. Well, I can see what that means in a way. I guess at the time, see, I had 10 #1 country records before we ever crossed over.
Okay.
And I hadn't planned on crossing over. I didn't know what the word really meant then. I was just doing what I do. All of a sudden, a movie came along called The Urban Cowboy. Everybody got into, you know, being a cowboy. It was cool to stop at the red light and have country music on your radio. You know, instead of going, cool
to wear boots.
And and everybody was wearing boots from LA to Brooklyn, New York, where I was born. Country was cool. With that wave of everybody digging country music came some acts, you know, over across the charts with that wave, and I was one of them. And luckily, I guess the songs were just right for what was happening on the charts at the time.
Did you ever consider writing just pop music?
Not really.
I
don't think about writing categories. That's the thing. I write what I like to write. And to me, it's all country, because that's the first thing I ever learned to play on the guitar and noodle on the piano. So even though it may not sound country to anybody else, it's country to me, you know. Maybe it's Irish country every once in a while, you know.
It's all that matters.
But I never write in categories. I write grooves or a country idea or just things that happen to my mind.
Does the writer make the song a hit, or does the singer make the song a hit?
Oh, I think it's both. An example comes to mind that Chris Christopherson wrote a song called "For the Good Times," and I was hanging out with Chris in Nashville at the time. He had the song recorded by a guy named Bill Nash. Now, Bill Nash was a real fine singer, and it was a real fine record, but it absolutely went nowhere. Went nowhere, and it was a good record.
Yeah,
just as good as Ray Price's record in many ways. You know, good singer, good production. It took 2 years later for Ray Price to cut the song and put his "For the Good Times," you know, that style into it that made it a hit. So I say it's got to be the writer and the singer come together at a certain place in time and just go boom, and it locks, you know. Because here you had a great song with the fine singer, and it didn't work, you know. So
it's a combination of the writer and the singer making the marriage work.
And timing. There's something in the air, you know, if the timing's right. I don't know what that means, but sometimes there's just a little space on the shelf there, and that record just slides right in.
Hey, I want to thank you for being on my show, sir.
Herb.
Pleasure. Eddie Rabbitt here on Southern Country Video. Until next time, this is Herb. Be well. Bye-bye.